Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back again talking more Mandalorian because the hits keep coming, and oh my god, this past week's episode was just so good. I thought that last week's episode was going to be hard to top with the first inclusion in live action of Ahsoka Tano, but oh my goodness, they did a good job of being on par or maybe even better with this week's episode. I am having a hard time telling, and I am also going to warn you that from here on in it's going to be full spoilers because they're kind of hard to avoid. This episode is chock full from start to finish with just pure Star Wars goodness. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, please go watch it right now and come right back to hear us talk about all the little bits and pieces that are just so great in this episode. You've been warned, this week's episode was called The Tragedy. And oh my goodness, after a bit of an opening scene where we see some cute father-sonny stuff between the Mando and Baby Yoda, now called Grogu, let's not forget he has a name now after last week's episode. They were kind of just having a little father-son moment that was also just twinged with that emotional heartstring pulling because the Mando is still set on returning Baby Yoda to his people, even though we all know that the Mando is basically Grogu's dad at this point and he doesn't want to give him up. Grogu doesn't want to give the Mandalorian up, but hey, they're going to planet Tython anyway. Now we know from last week's episode that Ahsoka Tano told them to go to Tython. It was a planet that had an ancient Jedi temple, strong in the Force. It had a seeing stone that Grogu could sit on and call out to possibly some other Jedi to come and find him. But wow, we didn't waste any time. We show up on Tython right away. There was a lot of speculation of, oh, are we going to get an episode of maybe some more filler in between? Show them maybe getting to Tython right at the end of episode 6. Nope, they got there right away. And it was a great juxtaposition between seeing the Mando acting like a dad for a minute, and then all of a sudden they drop this title on us, The Tragedy. Perfect setup to put us on edge as we know that, oh my goodness, something bad is probably about to happen. So what is it? Well, the Mando and Yoda get to Tython, and while the planet does look kind of different than we've seen it before in the now expanded universe canon of Old Republic and some of the comics, we are getting to see a more almost desert area of Tython, little, still lush greenery, but almost kind of an ancient Stonehenge type Jedi remnant that they find, which I thought was really cool. It does actually almost look exactly like one of the pictures that I posted last week that was expanded universe material talking about Tython. So I thought that was really cool. This almost reads as if maybe some of the stuff we saw in expanded universe canon was on Tython a long time ago, but it's basically ruins right now, kind of like our ancient civilizations here on Earth. So, I thought that read really well. I thought it was pretty awesome what they were doing. They do find the Seeing Stone, and Mando places Yoda on it, and just when we think that maybe nothing might be happening, we get the appearance of the Slave One. Oh my god, this was unexpected for so many fans. If you go out and watch some people's reactions to this episode, we all just kind of lost our minds. I mean, we kind of did get from the intro recap for this episode that the feeling that, oh, maybe we're going to get Boba Fett returning in here, and oh my goodness, yes we do. This was just so great to see the Slave One again after so many years. I believe that the last time that we saw the Slave One was in fact in episode 2, if you don't count Clone Wars or any of the other kind of expanded materials. So it was great to see that ship again, and we all knew what was coming once that ship touched down out of the sky. And the Mando goes to investigate, and indeed it is. It is Tamora Morrison returning, this time full on as Boba Fett. We got this teased at the end of the first episode of this season, but here we go, jumping full into it. He comes up and confronts Mando, and Mando basically asks him if he's here for the child. Boba Fett says he's here for the armor, and Mando kind of obviously thinks at first that he's talking about his armor, but as we all know as fans, no, Boba Fett is not here for your armor. He's here for his armor. The armor that Mandalorian got from Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant, earlier in the season, the first episode. And Boba's been tracking him. Here he is. And he has brought along Fennec Shan, Ming-Na Wen, star of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's back as the sharpshooter who we all kind of thought was dead at the end of episode 5 of last season, but nope, she isn't. Boba Fett saved her, and now she's got cybernetics in her stomach, which is kind of cool. And they basically come up to Mandalorian and give him the ultimatum of, well, give Boba Fett back his armor, and he will help you protect the child. And that does kind of sound like a pretty fair deal, as they say, based on how wanted the child is. So they are just about to hash out this deal when who shows up? Well, the Empire shows up, of course they do. And this is cool because we're kind of seeing almost like a precursor to the First Order shuttles as the stormtroopers touch down. This is another little detail that is kind of leading us softly into the sequel era kind of technology, so that's a nice little touch, but we're still getting those old school stormtroopers filing out and setting up shop to kind of just try and kill everybody. They have mortars, they have a giant repeating gun that they set up, and well, things don't look good originally. Mando rushes back to try and get the child, but Grogu has indeed made contact with the Force, and we get this kind of great little blue light. It's very kind of video game-like in a good way. And we just kind of see him sitting there, very cute in his little meditative stance, communicating with the Force. Now, the big thing here is that we do not know yet who he is talking to. It could be any number of other Jedi, perhaps, but we do not actually get to see into Grogu's Force vision. We just kind of get to see the Mandalorian trying to break him out of that Force field, so to speak. But he cannot get through that Force barrier. He keeps getting knocked back. And Boba Fett and Fennec just are wrecking these stormtroopers' shop. We get some Indiana Jones boulder action, taking out a stormtrooper. Boba Fett is absolutely amazing in this episode. I was just grinning ear to ear almost every minute of this fight. I'm just so happy with what we got. I was unsure whether or not we would actually get to see Boba Fett return in this season, or if that little glimpse we got in episode 1 was just something that we were going to have be setting us up for future seasons. But no, he comes back in, and he is more badass than he has ever been, and Boba Fett is finally living up to the reputation that fans have kind of put behind him throughout the years. Even though Boba Fett has always been a fan-loved character ever since his introduction, he's never really gotten the proper chance to shine in badass fashion, because we really only see him briefly in his first appearance, at least his first appearance in live action, in Empire Strikes Back. And then in Return of the Jedi, well, he's kind of infamous for getting taken out like a wuss very early on, and supposedly dying in the Sarlacc pit. But as we had confirmed in episode 1 of this season, he did not in fact die. They've reintroduced his survival to canon, and he is proving himself now by just kicking the crap out of these stormtroopers. Even without his armor, he is just pure badass, using a Tusken Raider gaffy stick to just completely wreck shop and just mess these stormtroopers up. He's busting helmets. He is just mangling these troops. They do not stand a chance. He's spearing them and annihilating them with just these gritty, badass looks to the camera that I could not get enough of. And then, of course, he is also looking towards Mando's ship in what we all know is his main goal of getting that armor back. And here we are just waiting on the edge of our seats, waiting for that moment to happen. And just when it looks like the Mandalorian and Fennec Shand are surrounded by stormtroopers, his Beskar is taking hits from every angle. And even though he's surviving it, things don't look good. Then we get probably one of the most badass sequences of this entire series, in my opinion. This is just such a great payoff for fans when Boba Fett does in fact finally show up fully armored, back in his gear, back in his form, and just, oh my god, it's just so good. I was just so happy with this sequence. And this episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez of Desperado fame, and he's directed Dusk Till Dawn, Planet Terror with Quentin Tarantino doing the Grindhouse movies. He is also famous with the younger crowd for the Spy Kids movies, Machete. Those movies are also him. This guy has a great, just grounded, gritty, but also over-the-top action feel that is just perfect for this series and this action sequence in particular. And I mean, everything about this was great. We get to see Boba Fett finally use the knee rockets that have only been mentioned in the art books from years ago. We get to see those in action. We just get to see him rocket punch stormtroopers, and they basically just all run away pretty quickly. Once he gets that armor, he's just shooting them left and right. It is awesome. He looks great. I cannot wait to get an action figure of this version of Boba Fett. He is just beefy and stocky and badass looking. He still has those kind of like dark desert robes on under the armor, which just also fits him so much better than when we see Cobb Vanth wearing it. Clearly, this man is the correct owner of this armor, and he puts it to good use. I will say that much. And as the stormtroopers are running away, of course, they're shuttling back up to wherever they came from. We once again get a great use of Boba Fett's rocket launcher, where he just takes out these shuttles. It's a great shot, just hits one shuttle, it careens into the other, and Boba just turns to the camera as they both explode. I want a poster of this right away. It's a perfect Favreau-like shot, almost like what we got in episode 1, where Cobb Vanth used the rocket launcher, and that harkening back to that shot in Iron Man of Jon Favreau's, with Iron Man blowing up the tank. This is just another one of those, oh my god, this is too badass for words shots that I was simply loving. And just as we get a great little piece of Star Wars humor where Mandalorian compliments his shot and Boba Fett is just like, I was aiming for the other one. Just as we get that little laugh, we get one of the biggest shocks of the episode and of the series in general, where from space an orbital bombardment comes down in the form of a giant laser that ends up destroying the Razor Crest. Mandalorian's spaceship is officially gone. It is blown to smithereens. This shocked the hell out of me and many fans. And just as the ship has been through hell and back and only got repaired a couple episodes ago, it is now gone, most likely for good. This doesn't look like it's coming back at all, and this was just a huge shock, but almost not as much of a shock as what happens next. The laser blast obviously came from Moff Gideon's ship, which is in the upper atmosphere, and he finally name drops the Dark Troopers, asking if they are ready for deployment. So it is now confirmed that when we saw him with that kind of squadron of robot-looking troops a couple episodes ago, everybody was speculating if those were in fact Dark Troopers from the expanded universe, and here it is confirmed that yes, they are, and holy crap, do they look badass. They just kind of shoot right out of the side of the spaceship. They are in fact some sort of droid robot troopers that are just all black, red eyes. These guys need action figures as well. They just look fantastic and intimidating, and they just rocket boot right down to the Seeing Stone, where Grogu has exhausted himself and is kind of just waking up from being asleep, and they surround him. And Mando and Fennec just can't make it back in time because earlier in the episode, Boba and Fennec and Mando were just having this kind of standoff moment where Boba asked Mando to take off his jetpack, to kind of have words. Mando never had a chance to put it back on, so they can't get to the baby in time, and Grogu is captured by the Dark Troopers, who escape back up to the ship. And even though Boba Fett chases them in Slave 1, Mando makes sure to let him know not to shoot because obviously he doesn't want to hurt the baby, and Boba Fett follows them up and is surprised to see basically an Empire ship. He says the Empire is back. Fennec says that's impossible because the New Republic controls the Outer Rim, but Boba Fett drops a pretty great little line here where he not only references Darth Vader a little bit by saying this is what he's seeing with his own eyes. He also has a funny little line where he says this isn't a spice dream. So Boba Fett's gotten into his fair share of psychedelic use, perhaps, by that reference. I thought that was funny. But unfortunately, the Empire does have Grogu now, and luckily, Boba Fett does get away. The ship just kind of takes off. He does not get killed, so that is good for now. But Gideon has, in fact, captured the child, and Mandalorian kind of regroups with Boba Fett and Fennec to talk about what their next move is. And also, as a little bonus, we got the recanonization of Boba Fett and Jango Fett as Mandalorians in the form of Boba Fett confirming that Jango was actually a foundling, like Mandalorian was. So this actually explains a lot. Back in the animated Clone Wars series, we had a contentious bombshell dropped on us fans when the Mandalorian character of Olmec said that Jango Fett and thus Boba Fett were not actually Mandalorians. They were just random bounty hunters who somehow found Mandalorian armor. So that kind of shocked a lot of fans back then, and ever since, the question of whether Boba Fett and Jango Fett were actually Mandalorians has been kind of debated hotly. Well, here they kind of clear that up in a pretty great way in saying that Jango was a foundling, so he was kind of given the armor by the precursors to Mandalorian's people, which probably would be Death Watch, which really kind of ties everything together really nicely. It kind of reconfirms that Boba and Jango are in fact Mandalorians, and gives a nice little out to Mando accepting Boba as the owner of his armor and being on good terms with him, teaming up with him, probably later on teaming up with Bo-Katan again and the other Mandalorians, and who knows where that's going to go in the end. It should be great. Din Djarin does also recover from the wreckage of the Razor Crest, the tiny ball that Grogu loves, and the Beskar spear that was given to him in the last episode. So he is definitely out for revenge at this point, and Moff Gideon definitely has some trouble coming his way in the next couple episodes of this series. Mandalorian says Boba and Fennec can just take off if they want, but we see a great little bit of honor among thieves here, as Boba Fett says that, well, he promised that if Mandalorian gave him the armor back, he would help him protect the child, so he is going to honor that promise. And we get some great promise of future action here, as now Mandalorian, Fennec, Boba Fett, they're all teaming up. They go to Navarro. Mando gets Cara Dune's attention. She has now accepted the role of Marshal in the New Republic that she was offered a couple episodes ago. So that's kind of cool, but she says, she has rules she has to follow now, but Mandalorian says, they have the kid. So help me out here. He wants to bust out Bill Burr's character from last season, the sharpshooter for the Empire. So that's cool. Getting promise of also seeing more Bill Burr action. I love Bill Burr. Can't wait to see more of him in Star Wars. And it looks like they're really getting their team together. We also end the episode back on Moff Gideon's ship, where Grogu is just kind of throwing stormtroopers around with the Force. It's a great little moment of just seeing him kind of trying his best to defend himself, but it tires him out, and Gideon kind of taunts him on this. He comes in and flashes the Darksaber at him, and he says, you're getting good at the Force, but you're also really tired, and here's a lightsaber, but I'm not going to let you play with this. You're not ready for that yet. And then he tells his troops to basically, lock the baby up and call the doctor that is going to further experiment on Baby Yoda. I'm still guessing that Gideon is trying to give himself or somebody else artificial Force powers through use of Grogu's blood, but obviously these last couple episodes will tell more on that. What I love here is that with Mando and Boba Fett and Fennec and the rest, I think we're basically setting up kind of a Magnificent Seven type scenario where we're going to just get all these badass characters together to go and try and finally take care of Moff Gideon and get the child back. This is really great. We are definitely getting the team up between Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and we got Fennec Shan, and we're going to have Bill Burr's character Mayfeld come back. We're probably going to have Cara Dune join them, and if I was a betting man, I would say that we're also definitely going to see Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians show back up to take on Gideon, because as we know from a few episodes back, she's looking for Gideon to get the Darksaber back, to take Mandalore back, so definitely she should show up. And if they really want to go all out, Ahsoka could show back up as well, or some other Jedi, although I wouldn't bet on that as much as Bo-Katan and the other people. But this is just shaping up to be one hell of a finale. We still don't know who Grogu contacted in the Force, so could it be Luke? Could it be Ezra? Or somebody else? I think that probably at the very end of the season we are going to get some sort of tease as to, what Jedi or other Force user Grogu did in fact contact. that should be great. But the big question is, how intense is this battle with Gideon going to be? Is it going to span both of the remaining episodes, or are we basically going to get some sort of interlude episode for episode 7 and then go all out in episode 8? I can't wait for next week's episode, and I know I just keep saying that, but Mandalorian just keeps delivering. This is probably the best Star Wars content that I think we've ever gotten, and I know that many of you out there feel the same. This show is just so awesome, and I didn't think that they were going to be able to top last week's episode, but I think they did, or at least came on par with it. These past 2 episodes have been some of the best things that I've ever seen from Star Wars, and I just can't wait for the rest. So join us again next week when we will probably invariably be discussing that episode as well, and join us as well for other upcoming Star Wars related videos that we're trying our best to get to you as fast as possible. Please like and subscribe if you want to hear more, and if you're excited about Mandalorian, let us know in the comments below what your favorite parts of this episode were and of this season in general. There's just been so much that we're going to go back and talk about in future installments. I just honestly can't wait to buy the Black Series or Hot Toys of this version of Boba Fett and get that up on the wall. It was just excellent, so I can't wait to see what they do. We will hopefully see you again soon. Thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you. Have a great day.